Hi, thanks for tuning in to Star Potential. I'm your host, Julie Joe. In today's episode, I welcome a very special guest, Elizabeth Cano-Correa, who empowered me with both Lamaze training and hypnobirth education through the births of my 2 children. I often say that everything I need to know about going through life, I learned in hypnobirthing. Stay tuned for our heartwarming conversation about embracing life's natural flow and choosing how you experience the things you go through in life. I think whether you're a person who is ever going to be going through childbirth or not, you will get so many valuable nuggets out of this conversation that we had about how you can apply these principles to everything in your life. Welcome to Star Potential, a podcast where we explore the meaning of our existence while having a few laughs and sometimes tears through stories from the road of life. I'm your host, Julie Jo Hughes. As a stage performer, my life is quite literally about song and dance. I believe that life here on Earth is a playground for discovery, not a contest to be won. We ask questions together like, how do I evolve my consciousness? And how do you sing a passionate ballad when there's an old guy in the front row with his balls showing? True story. Stick around for these fun conversations. Elizabeth Cano-Correa is a certified hypnobirthing childbirth educator, a Lamaze Certified Childbirth Educator, a DONA-trained birth doula, a postpartum doula, a certified consulting hypnotist, an EFT practitioner, and an NLP practitioner. Elizabeth incorporates her many experiences as a labor support doula to offer empowering and well-rounded prenatal classes. Elizabeth is a true advocate for childbearing families. As a doula, she has supported numerous couples through a wide range of birth experiences. She has attended births in hospitals, birthing centers, and home births throughout New York City and Long Island. In addition, Elizabeth is also a member of the Long Island Doula Association, New York Metro Doula Group, Choices in Childbirth, Mother-Friendly Childbirth Initiative, and Birth Justice Warriors, where she makes a difference for families both publicly and privately. She enjoys volunteering as a birth doula, a lactation counselor, and is a retired La Leche League leader. It is her goal to teach expectant families the full spectrum of possibilities as they prepare for the birth of their baby. Birthing can be approached with confidence by being fully prepared to respond in a positive way to your own personal birth experience. Elizabeth is happily married and is the mother of 2 amazing daughters. Her interest in childbirth education began during her pregnancy with her first child. She has been teaching classes for over 18 years and has attended well over 1,000 births. Please welcome Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Julie.
I am so excited to have you here. It's such an honor. You're such a huge part of my story of becoming a mother and then all the other good stuff that we're going to get into today. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's such an honor, and I'm so excited to be here. And I thank you for inviting me. And I'm glad that I was able to help in your life in any way possible.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. As I was telling you, it's funny how when we were going through our classes at the time, and we'll get into that in a moment here, but I really thought it was something that was serving me for that particular act of giving birth. And I can't believe how much it still affects my life 10 years later. How many metaphors you can draw from giving birth to just the flow of life. And so that is what we're going to get into today. Of course, you have so much expertise in the field of childbirth, but then you have all of these parallels that we can apply to so many other life situations as well. But we're going to dive right in here. We have a very fun journey. You helped me bring my first child into the world when you were teaching Lamaze. Then when I was pregnant the second time around, you had actually reached out and said, I want to let you know I'm doing this hypnobirth thing now. I was like, what is that? And okay, I'm all in. So before we kind of dive into that, will you just tell our listeners, like, what the heck is hypnobirth?
Okay, sure. So, hypnobirthing is a program that was designed to basically help women give birth easily and comfortably and quickly. It's designed as a 5-week program. It's basically designed to teach women to empower themselves. I basically teach women how to hypnotize themselves, to lose any fears, to really become like these valiant women in birth and to be very calm and confident in birth. And what's amazing to me is that it really, really works when people do the work. And what's amazing is that I think it's really transforming because it gives the power back to the woman. And so I think that's what's even better about it than the Lamaze program that I had initially taught. And I do think what you mentioned a little bit is that it affects the rest of your life. And while, the partners are always invited to join, and it helps them as well. And so I always emphasize, when I'm teaching, how to use it in your life and how to practice in your daily life to make it be second nature when it's time to give birth. And that also inadvertently does change your life. And so a lot of moms will say to me, I had a lot of anxiety being pregnant. Now I feel much more comfortable and confident, and I feel really, really calm and kind of excited to give birth. So I'm like excited to facilitate that and happy that I've, helped people to make that a reality for them.
Oh, that is amazing. Yes, I love that switch of a lot of times, especially when we haven't given birth before, which is when a lot of people are coming to you for your services. It's kind of coming from a place of fear. We don't know what to expect. And so there's a natural resistance there to kind of safeguarding against whatever might come our way. And what was so beautiful about the hypnobirthing journey is it actually teaches you, no, like you want to absolutely embrace every step of this journey. I can kind of tell you what to expect, but ultimately, and this is a lot of what brings us back to what we talk about here on Star Potential, is I feel like the journey of actually bringing a child through your body into this portal of our world is so much about being prepared with your practice and then being ready to just fully step into the present moment and embrace whatever happens during that journey. And what is really cool, what you mentioned having the partner be a part of it. I remember my husband, Bronislav, was a little bit questioning at the time, like, do I really need to be there? It kind of seems like it's your thing. And then I have to say, when we were in the birthing center and I was nearing the end of the actual laboring, and my daughter was about to be born, which we didn't know this yet in the moment. But I remember the midwives were like stepping through the room and they were thinking, oh, she's still got quite a ways to go. And because Bronislav had witnessed my journey through all this prep and everything, he was able to tell them she has her eyes closed. That means she's having a surge right now. And they knew that that was our language for contraction, what normally is called a contraction. And he was able to kind of be my advocate and say, like, yeah, she's got this, but I think we're getting close, just so you know. And so it was amazing to have him
Awesome.
be my partner in that. Do you come up against that a lot, that the partner is like more resistant than the mom? Or do you have some stories where like the partner really helped the mom in the moment because they came through the training too? Or what can you tell us about the partnership in the birth process?
So I always tell people that I really encourage the partners to always be there because the love that the couple has for each other is one of the key factors in giving birth.
Mm,
And so that love initially is so important. So one, being a supportive person just in the classes, because the birthing person is coming through a new phase in their life. So why not have the person who loves you, the parent of the child, be there for you?
absolutely.
So number one, that's number one. And so I always say, like, just being there is very loving and supportive, and that's going to help you to do your practice and know, like, somebody loves me, my partner loves me, father of my baby loves me, and they want to be here for me. So I think it's really important for the partner to be there. Number one, I always tell them that, like, nothing can replace your love. And so the other is the actual practice. Is I love what you how you just said, like, that he knew what you were doing and he could advocate you and let them know. And at the very least, he actually knew what was happening. And so for you, I'm sure that gave you a sense of, like, okay, he's got my back. I know I'm good no matter what. Like he'll run and get the midwives if the baby's head starts
For
coming out.
sure.
I give the partner like a sense of confidence as well. So partner confidence, and then confidence for the birthing person as well. And I think the other really good thing is that there's a lot of really great tools. So even though a lot of the tools are for the mom or for the birthing person to experience and to practice, I think what's really great is that the partner learns exactly what the mom needs to do, so that way they can remind them or let them know, or just be like, okay, that's great, you're doing amazing, and just keep going that way. And they also learn how to do a hypnosis, how to hypnotize the partner, which is, I think it's a great bonding experience. So you take the class, but it continues the bonding experience for the couple, which again, I think it's really important to have that support while you're pregnant. And some partners have said to me, I'm not the one who's pregnant, so I really don't know what's going on. And some people are sad about it, and some people are like excited for their partner. But a lot of times people are like, because it's a disconnect, they don't feel the baby kicking in their belly, they're not walking around with the baby all the time. So I think it's a really nice way for them to really connect to the birthing person, and to really feel like, I'm going to support my baby and my partner and be there for them. And I understand that I'm not giving birth, but I'm going to do everything possible to help them give birth. So I
Mm,
think that's like some of the really important things. And I would say, like, the hypnobirthing class is really relaxing. And so a lot of
yes.
people are like, I don't want to say they're taking naps, but sometimes some of the husbands are snoring, which is hilarious. It's just so fun. It's just a nice class. And then, they're like, this is the best class ever. I love this class. When the couples are excited to come together and relax together. And I think it just makes everything better for them to
Right.
be relaxed together.
Yes. Oh, and I have to tell you a fun anecdote that you probably don't know yet, after our journey with you was Bronislav watched me prep and do my affirmations for almost 8 months, like getting ready for this birth. And then he witnessed this most beautiful birth experience. And we talked about this. We have an unlisted YouTube video, and maybe I'll see if I can figure out how to like censor a couple of parts, and maybe link in the show notes if anyone is interested in seeing like what my personal hypnobirth looked like. Because I'm honestly so proud of it. You helped me to give two beautiful and empowering births that I am just so proud of. And I love the opportunity for the two of us to be able to share that message of, you can really be empowered in your birth and not just be like, just completely leave it up to, oh, it is what it is, and I don't know, and I'll let the hospital tell me what's going to happen. And in other areas of your life too, like if you educate yourself and you feel empowered going into situations, then whatever happens, you're just in a better place to make decisions and things like that, because you're not coming from fear and a lack of knowledge. But what I wanted to share is that he was so inspired by by my journey through this hypnobirth that he actually began a meditation practice. After that, he really deepened this meditation practice. He started teaching meditation and doing meditation with his personal training clients, and it has become such a huge integral part of what he does as a personal trainer with his clients. And it was actually inspired by the hypnobirth journey that I went through. And now, this past year, he actually just got certified as a hypnotherapist.
That is so cool. I
Yeah.
love that. I
So
love
even
that.
6 years later, you're still inspiring us. I want to ask you, you say that your interest in childbirth education began during your pregnancy with your first daughter, and you have two beautiful daughters. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did you go from, I'm bringing my first child into the world, to, I think I want to help other people do this?
So what's interesting is I had like a dual career. I don't know if I ever shared this with you,
Hmm.
but I managed a presentation center for an international investment bank. And
Wow.
I know it was a pretty big job. I managed like centers around the world, but I was based in New York. And I was also an actress.
I think I did know that part.
So yeah. And I was actually on a soap opera after I gave birth.
Oh my
And
God.
while I was pregnant, I had a doula. And I love my doula, and I was taking childbirth education classes, and I was so excited for birth and everything. And as I got closer to giving birth, I was like, I don't know if I really want to go back to work.
Mm,
I'm not sure. I think I want to breastfeed.
mhm.
And I was trying to figure it out. And she suggested to me, why don't you just become a childbirth educator? That way you could breastfeed and make money. And I was like, oh, that's such a great idea. And she's like, you can go into wherever and do whatever. And I'll tell you, just funny, after I gave birth, I was going to the studios in Brooklyn to do the soap opera, and my husband would drive me with the baby, and I would breastfeed, and then I'd run into the studio, do my thing, and then come back out. I was like, okay, I gotta breastfeed. Okay, but the bank was much harder. It was definitely a very challenging job. While I loved it because it was challenging, but afterwards, being a mom and doing banking was not fun at all. And it
Mm.
was more of a challenge and a long time. And I would just have to be pumping and probably not see my baby for days because it just wouldn't be possible. So I felt like I really needed to make a change. And so that's what I did. And when I was training to be a Lamaze childbirth educator, you have to actually attend births to do it, and you have to watch. They say you can watch, observe, but I'm not a watcher. I'm a doer.
Oh, uh-huh.
I like to get in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I learn. I like doing. So I took the DONA International Training Program, and I learned a whole bunch of stuff, and it was amazing. And so I attended, like, the students in the class. I attended their births, and they were like, "Oh my God, you're amazing! You should be a doula. You should be a doula." And I was like, "I'm not going to be a doula. Like, that is crazy. This is crazy." And they're like, "No, but you're amazing." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And so then they kept recommending me, and so then it just kept happening. And I was like, all right, well, obviously, like, God or the higher powers want me to do this. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. And I have to just say, even now, like, almost 20 years later, it's still amazing and incredible. Like,
Oh,
when a new human comes into the world, I'm
oh,
like, thank you, God. Like, this is so amazing. It's just so powerful.
oh.
And like, I can't, I'm getting chills just saying, like,
Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills too. Just to be there when a new soul like enters the world, that must be such an incredible honor. And you have attended over 1,000 births. Oh my gosh, that alone is like, oh my goodness, what a legacy. That's incredible.
yeah, I really feel like this is a calling.
Mhm.
It's because I'm like, it's so unbelievable. I've had so many different jobs. I can't even begin to tell you all the different jobs I've had, but this is the one that stuck the most. And I love my families too. So it's not
Mhm.
just about the baby, which is absolutely incredible, but the families. Like, you're becoming parents, you're becoming a family. So all of you are coming together, and I'm here to witness that and guide you and help you and just be there for you, which I feel like so honored to all my families who allow me to be there for them. And I think it's incredible, honestly, because there's so many transitions right at the time of birth. And so I'm helping them lead up to it, and the time. And at that, then I used to do postpartum work, but thereafter, and even still, like, a lot of my family still talk to me, and like, they send me their pictures, and like, you and I still see your pictures, and I'm always
Yes.
rooting for you.
Yeah.
And I love all my families. I really do. Like, genuinely from my heart, I love all my families. And I think, to me, it's been an incredible journey.
Mm, that's so beautiful. Yes, I definitely still feel so supported from you. And we've moved all the way across the country now. We met when we were living in Astoria, Queens. And of course, you are there in New York, and now we're all the way in SoCal. And still I feel your love every time you comment on one of the kids' photos, and you're still like a part of our family. So yeah, that must just feel so good to be a part of so many people's lives in such a meaningful way. Let's talk a little bit about the importance of the practice. So I talked a little bit about this prep that we did for 7 or 8 months when you taught me the affirmations to do and things like this. And so I developed this kind of me time every night where I was practicing. And if I missed a day because I had a show that night or whatever, I would try to make it up like early the next morning or something because I really felt the importance of this kind of a ritual. And so just can you talk to us a little bit about like how what you put in is kind of what you get out?
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to start off with this little story about
Sure.
being in the hospital with hospital births. I remember I was in this hospital where they don't traditionally have natural unmedicated births.
Hmm.
And I had this family who was very dedicated. They were very dedicated. And the mom had to be induced. And so, interestingly, hypnobirthing is one of the only programs that I've witnessed where the mom can still easily and comfortably give birth even when being induced. So, they were giving her medication and they kept turning it up and turning it up. And she was just breathing through it and using all the different techniques that she had learned. And the nurse said to me, "Okay, you ready?" Said to her, "You ready for your epidural?" And she was like, "No, I'm not." And she was like, "Oh, what's your pain? What's your pain from 0 to 10, 10 being the worst?" And she was like, "3." And she was like, "Okay, great. So I'm gonna go get your epidural." I'm like, "Excuse me, ma'am, but I don't think you heard her. I think I wake up at a 3. What are
Yeah,
you doing?"
really?
No epidural. And then so the mom kept going and she was like, "Oh, right. She said 3. Right. She did say 3." And I'm like, "Mm-hmm."
Wow.
So it's so crazy, right? So we
Yes.
go forward and the mom is moving forward and she's advancing and she's advancing. And then the nurse comes back in with another nurse and they're like, they sit down like secret and they're like, "What is going on in here? I don't understand. She should
Wow.
have an epidural and we're giving her more medicine and she's not flinching." So,
Wow.
and I was like, "Well, this is hypnobirthing. She has learned to hypnotize herself and she has been practicing for months to
Hmm.
to for this big day. She has been practicing for months every day to do this, to stay calm and to allow the hormones to release to help her feel comfortable and at ease, even with medication." So they were in shock and awe. And I tell
Wow.
you that the baby, they didn't even notice that the baby was coming out
Oh,
until the baby was coming out. And
that's
I
incredible.
can't, she had her eyes closed and she was like so comfortable. And I was like, "Are you having the baby? Can I look?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, there's the baby." And the nurse comes in and she's like, "What's happening?" And I'm like, "I think the baby's coming." And she like looks, she's like, "Oh my God, it's the head." And the baby just slipped out and the baby was fine. And I know a lot of midwives will joke, like, you got to be careful with the hypnobirthing babies because they just sneak out. So, but what's interesting, and then I'm sure you can say the same, is that it looks from the outside, it looks like you're doing nothing and it looks
Yes.
really easy.
Yes.
But there is a lot of practice to do beforehand. So there's like a whole change of the mind, and there is different breathing practices. There's reading a book, obviously taking the class, and then there's a hypnosis that you're doing. There is affirmations, as you mentioned, and then there's different hypnosis techniques that you learn as well.
Hmm.
And I personally chose this particular program because I thought it was the easiest. And if
Hmm.
I thought it was easy, I think it would be easy for the moms to do. So it's not like it's so cumbersome that you're like doing this stuff all day long, or even if you are including the practice in your daily life, it's kind of enhancing your life versus hindering it or taking up a lot
Yeah.
of time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I don't remember it being like a whole thing that I had to look at my schedule and go, when am I going to do all of this? It was just pretty easy to just, I made it a priority to implement it every day or almost every day. And because it was a priority, that wasn't difficult.
Yeah, and I think what's amazing is that I also like will say it's kind of like a marathon where, if you haven't been running or doing exercise, like you would never decide, "I'm going to get up today and run a marathon." No.
Right.
You would actually have to have practice beforehand, possibly had a coach, possibly read a book, possibly done a bunch of stuff to really prepare. possibly hire your husband to help them. You know what
Yes,
I mean?
absolutely.
It's not like usually, as far as I know, nobody has done that. Maybe there are some crazy people who do that, but I can't imagine. Like, I know I ran half marathons, and if I hadn't practiced for the half marathons, I don't think I would have gone through those either.
Right.
So,
Or you end with a lot more pain, right?
yeah, yeah. So I just think that it's amazing because it does give you a sense of empowerment going into it. And it is like when I see people who are really prepared, they are just doing it. And it's, to me, it's really incredible because they they feel their surges coming on, aka contractions, and they are just breathing and they just know, and it's just happening, and they're like, there it is, there it is. And there's a whole body awareness. So maybe you could talk about this also, like you're like, oh, I feel my hips opening and I feel the baby descending,
Mhm.
and oh yes, and I think the baby's entering the vaginal canal now. I feel a lot of pressure there. And I what I think is amazing is that they're so aware of their body, and there's
Yes.
no one is screaming and yelling, and it's just so calm and peaceful. And a lot of times the babies come and they are sleeping, or they're just with their
Ugh,
eyes wide open, and they're just so calm, and they're like, hey mom, I've arrived.
right. I mean, we still say that today about our Greta. Like, she's so chill. And if I start losing it or I'm getting like anxious, she just has such a wisdom about her. She'll come to me and she'll just like softly grab my hand. She'll pull me down and look into my eyes and she'll say, just breathe, mom. And I just feel like she is this calm little soul. And we're like, yeah, that's our hypnobirth baby. Like, she entered the world with such peace and calm that it's like it's just innate in her.
Yeah, and imagine like the future of these babies, like what are they going to be like, in the world, just maneuvering at all the challenges in such a calm and peaceful way. And
Yes.
even as a birth doula, like that's, sometimes there's some challenges or special circumstances in the hospital, and I'm like, okay, so I have to breathe and I have to calm myself down and do my calm breathing. And I always think, kill them with kindness and
Yeah.
have a calm conversation. And when you do speak from that calm, loving place, it's so much more effective
Mm.
than screaming and yelling or being angry or any of those things. So I feel like it is a huge life lesson.
Absolutely. Yes, and just coming again from a place of groundedness, from love rather than fear, anger, anxiety. Just automatically it's like, "Oh, which place would we want to come from? Like where are we going to get more? Like where are we going to get further?" You know? I would love to segue now and have you talk to us a little bit about the idea of pain versus suffering. And this is one of those areas that I feel like has come up for me so many times since going through hypnobirth. There's a difference between, I remember Bronislav asking me at the end, so that's crazy because he watched me give birth and we have it on the video a minute and a half before Greta was born. He's talking to me, I'm smiling, laughing, and then I close my eyes and he knows I'm having a surge. And I said something like, I think baby is almost here. It's pretty intense now. I'm still smiling. And he says, do something that relaxes you. And I was like, maybe I'm going to sing. And do you remember this? I started
Yes.
Yes, I started just kind of humming, and then it turned into like a full-blown, like it wasn't really a scale, but just kind of ascending melody and then back down. And I was really just following the feeling that was happening in my body, like it's surging, it's surging. And as I hit this high note, out she comes. And you would just never know that like a birth of a child was happening in that moment. And so Bronislav asks later, like, that's crazy. So you didn't feel any pain? And I was like, hang on. I still had all the same physical experiences that I did with my first birth, where I didn't know hypnobirth yet. The difference was in the way that my mind labeled it. I wasn't suffering. Yes, it was pain, but I didn't have this whole narrative going on around it. So, talk to us a little bit more about that and how we can kind of apply that in our lives.
Well, one of the lessons in hypnobirthing is actually changing your language,
Mhm.
right? So I don't know if you remember this, but we actually take the word pain out of our vocabulary.
Yes, I
And I
remember.
challenge everyone to describe what's going on versus saying pain.
Right.
So that's number one. So that's like a little lesson in there. And interestingly, when we choose negative words or something that's not, when we say something, not something, whatever that something is what the subconscious hears.
Okay.
So let's just say, I don't like fish. I love
Hmm.
fish, by the way. But, and so what the subconscious mind hears is fish. It
Right.
doesn't hear the do not. So we're constantly reminded of the fish.
Right.
Like, and you're like, oh, why am I thinking about fish? And
Hmm.
it's because I said I do not like fish. But if
Hmm.
I said I love hummus,
Yes.
right? Then that would make more sense because then I'm thinking about hummus. I'm like, oh yes, I'm gonna have hummus. I'm gonna have some feta cheese, whatever, things like that.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about the positive things that you actually want versus the things you don't want, then that is part of how the mind begins to change.
Mm.
So, and there is a whole bunch of other parts of this lesson where, suffering versus pain, again, we don't use pain,
Yeah.
but the awareness. And I do want to say, like, some people say they have no pain at all.
Wow.
People say they have some discomfort, like
Mm.
and you actually did use the word pain. And some people, I'm going to say this about any program or anything. One of the biggest challenges is exhaustion. So I
Mm.
always tell everybody, why do you want to be in labor for so long? If just let the baby out.
Hmm.
Allow yourself to open up and let the baby out. Because the sooner you let the baby out, the sooner all of this will be all over and you don't
Hmm.
have to do it anymore. And they're like, you know what, Elizabeth, you're right. I should just let the baby out. And then what's interesting with since I am also a hypnotist is that in the birth, I'll be guiding them and saying, like, okay, open up your cervix, bring your baby down, open up the perineum, bring everything out. Let your baby come down, feel yourself in peace and at ease. And when we start to give ourselves those ideas of an emotion or a feeling, then we start to accept that. The other interesting thing is in the birth itself, when people are really connected to that and that so calmness and that super relaxed place, people then are really releasing, and you must have had it, so you can share a little bit about it, that where they are experiencing their natural hormonal anesthesia, which is
Hmm.
200 times that of morphine, which is pretty incredible. Like
Amazing.
sometimes some of these moms, I look at them and they look like they're high. They're like, eyes are like relaxed, and they're like,
Yes.
oh, I'm doing great. And I'm like, look at her, look how relaxed she is, look at her face, look at her, she's doing
Yes.
awesome. And so if you allow your body to continue to be there, even through the actual birth, I think those are the ones that don't have any pain
Okay.
or discomfort.
Yes.
Um, but I think when you continuously allow, because you can go in between the different fight or flight stages, because especially, there's a baby coming through there. How many
Yes.
times do you have a baby coming through and like it's just a different experience because your hips are actually opening and everything is actually opening. You're like, wow, I'm opening up
Hmm.
and there's a human coming out. Like, that's crazy. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But
Yeah.
I think when that happens, that is when you're accepting of it, then it's easier.
Mm. I think that's the key right there, right? It's all about accepting what is.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I wanted to add something about that. So when women are birthing the baby and they're going through this, when they have really, there's another tool in there to help open up the cervix. It's like a visualization tool.
Mhm.
And so when they start visualizing this tool to open up the cervix, it's amazing because many women will go from six. I've had women who go from 6 centimeters dilating to giving birth in a half an hour.
Wow.
Seven, my most recent birth, 7 centimeters dilated to giving birth in 5 minutes. And
Wow.
literally, the mom says she had no pain, no discomfort,
Mm.
and made no noise. And the whole room was full of nurses and PAs, and nobody noticed that she was giving birth.
That is incredible.
Yeah. So, and then as far as suffering is concerned, for every practice, no matter what, if you're exhausted, no matter what you choose to do, what practice, exhaustion and dehydration,
Mm.
that's your enemy.
Mm.
So if you're going for a long, long time and nothing is happening and you're exhausted and you're just like, I can't do this anymore,
Mhm.
um, that could be the time where, I say that it's maybe you should think about getting the epidural if
Mhm.
you really can't. And, if we're in home birth, I'm always like, let's get in the tub, let's get in the tub. That's the natural epidural, the aquadural,
Mhm.
so I feel like really acknowledging and being, with whoever's assisting you and helping you to help you get to those places to relax. And then if there comes a point where only you, the birthing person, knows what you feel,
Right.
right? You're the only one. Like from the outside, you look really calm and peaceful, but you were saying that you felt pain. So, what was interesting is that lady who gave birth so quickly was like, was I really loud? Because I felt like I was loud. She was not loud at all. She was just like breathing, and I was like, no, you were just breathing very strongly, and no, you were not loud. And she was like, oh, I thought I was being really loud. I'm like, nope, you were not loud at all. So it's interesting what one's perception is.
Yes.
So yeah, so I just think that, obviously you have to be your own advocate, and
Mhm.
you have to say what you feel, you
Yeah.
know and whoever is supporting you has to listen to that and see how, like, make the suggestions to see, because if you have a specific goal, to help you get to that goal, and do make all the suggestions and having conversations about it,
Yes.
because the mom or the birthing person definitely wants to feel like, I tried no matter what. I did so much. I was there for 24 hours and I couldn't get the baby out. I was there for 48 hours. And I couldn't get the baby out. And it's okay to get, whatever that special circumstance is. And for whatever reason, maybe the baby wasn't ready to come out that way, or the baby was in a weird position, or something happened. Maybe mom was having a medical issue. So, I think it's really important just to be honest with yourself and
Yes.
honest with the people who are supporting you.
Mm. And there was something that you said in there that I think is such a great just life metaphor too, is sometimes if you're just exhausted and you feel like you can't do it, like maybe you're dehydrated, maybe you need a rest. So I think even if we took this out of the birthing situation, like I can think of so many examples in my life where I was just up against a wall and there was something I just couldn't do it anymore. And it wasn't until I just fully surrendered and let go and was like, tonight, like I'm not working on this project. I just need to sleep. And it's amazing how sometimes just rejuvenating and recharging the body, you wake up with just a new set of eyes. It doesn't seem as, you know, overpowering as it did the night before and things because sometimes you are just tired and when we're exhausted we don't think straight and we don't think from abundance. We're thinking from a place of scarcity and we're always going to make decisions differently if we're feeling like we're not whole and abundant.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And again, that's that being honest with yourself,
Hmm.
right? And loving yourself, because sometimes you need a break, and that's it. Sometimes you need a break. I always say, like, honestly, go through what you can go through. If you're in the tub and you're doing all these things and you're breathing and you're changing positions, you're doing all this different stuff, and there comes a point where it just isn't happening anymore and you just can't do it, that's fine. It's
Yes.
fine. And I, all the moms, any moms that has happened to, I always say, like, you are a champion because
Absolutely.
you you went through all this stuff and
Mhm.
you did it.
Right.
You did it. So, that, to me, that's amazing. The other thing, what's interesting, what I just want to say is, like, the founder of hypnobirthing, there's something in the book that she wrote that says, like, when you feel like you just can't do it anymore, that's your baby, and just breathe your baby out. And so,
Oh,
in yoga, they have something similar, right? So when there's a position that you can't go through, and then, your instructor will say, okay, go, just breathe through it, just breathe through it. And so many babies, like the moms will say, Elizabeth, I just can't do this anymore. I'm like, okay, just breathe. Let's do it. Just breathe. And
yeah.
so the mom will breathe, and all of a sudden the baby's coming out.
Oh, I love it. It's so beautiful. And again, just anything in life, if you get to that spot where you feel like, I just can't do it, like, just stop and just breathe. Like, that really is the answer to so many things. It's like, just pause for a minute, let go, surrender, breathe. And then so many things just kind of work themselves out when we do that.
Yes, yes. I know there's a saying, like, breath is life.
Yes.
Breath really is life.
Mm.
When we breathe oxygen into our bodies, we think better, we heal better, we are living longer lives, we're just happier people, our blood is pumping. It really, breath is so incredible. So I definitely invite everyone to breathe. When
Yeah.
there's challenging situations, and I know we talk about acting too, like, when you, like, right before, you get those, like, jitters and everything, you're like, oh my God, and you're like shallow breathing,
Yes.
you take a moment to go, okay, I'm just going to calm and do my calm breathing and just relax.
Mhm.
And then just say to yourself, like, I'm going to let everything, all the emotions, all my practice, all everything, I'm going to let it out, and it's just going to come forward, and you'll see how amazing you are.
Yes. And I don't know the science behind all of it, but there is obviously science behind all of this, right? Like,
Yes.
when we take a deep breath in, it's switching from, like, the parasympathetic to the sympathetic or something like that. It's switching, like, where your nervous system is being fueled from, and it actually does produce your own relaxation hormones and things. I'm sure you could say more to that than I can.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you said that. So the sympathetic system is the, what we call, the emergency room, and
Yes.
that's like, the fight or flight or freeze.
Yes.
Freeze hormones get let out, and then the other one is the parasympathetic, and that's when what I like to call the happy healing room.
Oh,
And
nice.
that is like when all the positive, the beta endorphins are being released, and you're happy, and good things are happening, and your body's healing, and your body's doing well. So even in everyday life, like, this is why I think it's really important. I'm like, live longer, live in the happy healing room. You don't
Mhm.
have to remember the word parasympathetic, but
That's
remember
true.
to live in the happy healing room. Remember to breathe. In the happy healing room, we breathe. And when we can breathe out of the emergency room and breathe into the happy healing room, that's going to help us immensely.
That's such a good visual. We should create a little drawing, like, reminding people, shut the door to this room and come on into this room.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
I love that. That's a great idea.
well, if you'll indulge me for a moment, I feel like I have you here. I want to tell a little bit about both of my birth stories. We talked a little bit about Greta's already, but the first time I worked with you, it was all Lamaze, and it was so much about breathing, right? And then we just kind of we like totally expanded that with the second one. But when Elliot was being born, I remember that I told you, you kind of were, I mean, not kind of, you definitely were selling me on the benefits of, like, you don't have to have your birth in a hospital. And I kept saying, yeah, I know, but, like, I don't have my mom here or any, like, best friends. I think I just feel more comfortable being in a hospital setting, but I really want to have a natural birth. If I, like, I just really feel like my body knows what to do, and that if I just tap in, like, I'd really like to have a natural birth. And your biggest piece of advice to me was, then I'm going to tell you, just stay out of the hospital as long as you can, because the sooner you go there, the more likely they are to intervene if it's not happening on their timeline. And one intervention leads to the next intervention, leads to the next. And I waited so long. I remember that Bronislav was saying, like, this seems like it's getting pretty intense. Like, should we go? And I was like, no. Elizabeth said, like, I gotta wait till the last minute. And I have a pretty high I know once we got to hypnobirth, we didn't use the word pain, but I have a pretty high just pain tolerance in general. And so I kept assuming it was going to be like outrageously unbearable or something because that's like what society tells us, right? All these like movies and things that we see. And so I crossed over the bridge from Queens into Manhattan and was like spending the day at our friend's house, who's just like 10 blocks south of the hospital, so that we could just jump in a cab and go right up to the hospital. And I was still saying, like, I don't think it's time yet. I don't think it's time. And Bronislav was like, I'm calling it. Like, I think it's time. We hop in the cab, we get to like triage, and they were giving me so much attitude. I remember I was totally in my body, felt like I was in another realm. I was doing this kind of like mooing thing out in the waiting room. And I was like, I'm telling you, there's a baby coming any moment. You need to get me into a room. And they gave me so much attitude, like, oh, we'll see about that. And when I finally got into the triage, they checked and they were like, oh, you're at 9 centimeters. And I'm like, yep, that's what I'm telling you. Like, this baby is coming any moment. And then the
You were
doctor,
probably even holding her back,
yes,
holding him back.
that's what it felt like. It really felt like this is trying to happen, and I'm just trying to hold off until I can get into a room. And once they finally got me into a room, I want to say it was within like 48 minutes or something. Like, once I finally felt like, okay, there's a doctor on staff who's going, because my doctor was not on at that time. But this other lady was on staff, and I remember her saying afterwards, I wish we could have filmed that whole thing. That was like a textbook delivery. I was just here to catch. Like, you did everything yourself. Like, if everybody did it like you, I wouldn't have a job. And it was just like, yeah, I didn't really need any help. I knew what to do on my own. My body and my baby knew what to do, which is what you taught me. So then fast forward to 4 years later, when Greta was coming, with both babies, we didn't know the gender, like we didn't know anything because I love to be surprised, like in all ways.
So
And
cool.
yeah, and so now it was like, yeah, that was great, but I learned that I don't really need to be in a hospital settings. This time around, we were at a birthing center. It was an ice storm in New York in February. And I remember I had called the birth center and they said, there's going to be like one person on staff tonight, but we want you to go ahead and come now, even if you don't think it's quite time yet, because the roads are bad. The last thing we want is we don't want you to get stuck somewhere between Queens and Brooklyn getting down here. And so we had the whole birthing center to ourselves, but it was freezing cold. It was because they weren't expecting anyone to be there that night. So, like, the heat wasn't turned up or something. And it was ridiculously cold. And finally, Bronislav and I shut ourselves into this tiny little room. It was like barely bigger than a closet. And we were like, do you have a space heater or something? And I'm bouncing on this birth ball, and I had the heater. And finally, my body stopped shivering enough that I felt like the room temperature was acceptable. And immediately my water broke. It was again like the only thing holding me back was cold and tension. So then, like, couple hours go by or something, and there was a new intern on staff. And the midwife had told the intern to go fill the tub because Bronislav kept telling them, just so you know, she says the baby's coming soon. She'd like to have that tub ready. And we had already told them a couple times and it's not happening. And I was like, I don't think they understand. Like, if they don't fill the tub now, like, baby's just going to come anyway. And I really wanted to have a water birth. So can they please fill the tub? But again, I'm very chill. Like, I'm just riding these surges. I'm not yelling at anyone. It was very much just like, can you please let them know that I really need that tub to be filled? It was like that. So she fills the tub, and then I'm standing up and I hear the midwife say, you didn't check the water temperature? We can't let her get in here. It's 72 degrees. And I stood up and I like put my hand on her arm and I was like, it's okay. this baby's coming now, no matter what temperature the water is. And she was like, it might be a little shocking for you. And so I wonder now when you're saying it back, like that I was saying it was really intense at the end, maybe it is because when I stepped into that water, my body was like, that is
Yeah,
like, 25 degrees colder than the birth
yeah,
environment.
yeah.
And so I
You
immediately
instantly
started,
created tension in your body.
absolutely. And yeah, it was she was ready to come out and then my body like went into tension and freeze again. And so I just had to tell my body like, yep, it's cold, but it's okay. And I submerged down into this 72-degree water and like a minute later she came into the world. So she was just waiting for me to say it was okay, you know?
Wow. That's amazing. Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And yet you are very valiant to get into that 72-degree water. And
It
yes,
was cold.
it totally makes sense why you would have some discomfort.
Mm,
Because yeah, because what happens is once you start having tension, even if you seem totally relaxed, but all of a sudden you clench your hands like
mm,
this tension actually spreads through your whole body.
mm.
This alone stops blood flow. So
Wow.
when that happens, you're actually creating tension in your whole body. So I
Mm.
always tell moms, you got to relax everything, your
Everything.
hands, your jaw, but of course, you're getting into a cold bath. Of course, you're
Right.
going to be like, oh,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In a regular circumstance, you would be like,
Right.
right?
Yeah. When you're
And
not having a baby.
everything, and I just think like when I go into the ocean and it's freezing, I'm like, everything is cold. I'm closing everything up when in birth you're supposed to be opening. So you are inadvertently pushing against
Mm.
that tension. And
Yes.
of course, any little bit of tension actually causes discomfort.
Yes.
So so yes, that makes sense that you had discomfort because of the cold tension.
Mm. Yes. Yeah. Now putting that all together 6 years later, almost 7 years. Um,
Wow. But you're amazing because you did it.
yes. That's
You
what I'm
did it.
saying.
You were like, I want that water birth.
Yes, exactly. I was like, and I don't think we can wait any longer. Baby is saying, knock, knock, hello. This is the time I wanted to be born.
That's so awesome.
Oh, well, I'm trying to be conscious of our time here too. And we've just had so many beautiful nuggets here that, as I told you on our message the other day, I really feel like everything I need to know about life, I learned from Hypnobirth. Like, it's it's so true that you can apply it to so many situations in life as far as when you're coming up against anything. Just take a deep breath, take note in your body, like, where am I holding resistance to this? And then I think it can help us clue in to, like, oh, I didn't even realize that I was resisting this, but I guess I am. How can I allow this and kind of surrender? It's such an interesting, I love the book The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Are you familiar with that one?
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, read it if you haven't. And I
Okay.
feel like it goes right hand in hand with everything that you teach, but it really teaches you the difference. You understand what he means by surrender versus like throwing your hands up and giving up. It's not that, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's more going with the flow of life instead of trying to fight against it or swim upstream.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I love it. Yes, yes.
Is there anything else that before I go into our rapid fire questions here with you, you talked about hypnosis and just how powerful it is, how powerful one's mind is to control the body and life. I feel like we've definitely touched on that, but anything else you just want to say on that before we go?
Yeah, I just want to say that your mind is very powerful and you have the ability to control your
Mm,
body's chemistry, so many things. So like I mentioned, I am also a hypnotist and it's truly incredible. And I work with people with so many different things, fear of flying,
mm,
smoking, weight, so many things, cancer, illnesses, so many things. And people are amazed at how they can heal their lives using hypnosis and knowing like that their mind has this capability.
mm,
So it's truly incredible. what the power of hypnosis and what your power, your own power that you have to really help yourself,
Mm,
which I think is like an innate gift that we have that we don't even know about. Many of us, I didn't know about this beforehand. And
right.
I am really in awe. And I personally thank all the birthing women for like taking me down this path and like teaching me this amazing lesson. So, I just definitely urge everybody to do some kind of hypnosis if you have a challenge. And at the very least, like your husband did, meditate. Just take the time. And it doesn't have to be like people are like, oh, I can't meditate. I can't meditate. Just put some music on and just whatever, just sit still. And with whatever things are going through your mind, just let them go. And
Mm,
just think about a beautiful place. I always say, what is your favorite place in nature, real or imaginary? And just go to that place and sit on the most comfortable chair and just breathe and relax and just that's like a little gift that you can give yourself. You could just do 5 minutes and it's a
right.
little gift that you can give yourself. So why not do that?
Mm,
And inadvertently you are training yourself to be calmer throughout your day. And you can just start extending and extending more and more time. And you can see that your life will change just from that. You'll be calmer and more at ease, and you'll be living in that happy healing room. And that's
oh,
what I want for everybody. I want everyone to live in the happy healing room.
yes. Come on into the happy healing room. It's so fun over here. I love that. What a beautiful note for us to kind of end on there. Elizabeth, I'm going to go into our rapid fire questions. These are some fun questions for our listeners to just get to know you a little bit better. So I want to ask you, as a kid, what did you always want to be when you grew up?
So I had two potential paths. I either wanted to be a doctor, but I didn't want to do surgery.
Ooh,
Uh,
ah, look at that.
I know, right? But I never knew what that was. And possibly an actress as well, which I
Yes.
did too.
Yes.
Um,
Amazing.
yeah,
Well, you made your dreams come true. Good job.
yeah,
A little Elizabeth must be so proud.
yeah.
Which season of the year makes you feel most alive?
I love the summer. I love the summer. It's just to me like the sun and the sand and the water and the beach. I love being connected to nature. I love feeling the warmth on my skin. I love being tan. I just love the summer.
Mm,
It's the best. I
beautiful.
also was pregnant throughout the summer, so it
Oh,
was challenging, but I loved it.
oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense. You have that connection to the summer in that way too. If you had a theme song, this is like my fun one, for every time you made an entrance, what would it be?
I'm Every Woman by Shaka Khan.
Oh, yes. I love that so much. And that just fits you and what you do so nicely.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
That is a great one. All right, finish this sentence. When I'm 80, I'll be.
Delivering babies.
Oh, yes, girl. That is so beautiful and like tribal in a way. I just love it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, favorite dessert.
Tiramisu.
Oh, yes. Oh, you can find some really good tiramisu in Queens too.
Yes. Yes. We've got our real Italians here. Sure,
Yes.
there's lots of real Italians everywhere, but the
Yeah.
initial.
Yeah, exactly. The initial ones. That's I'm probably so true. Okay, and what is a book that you would recommend for everyone to read?
My favorite book. It's funny because I read lots of books about birth and I have lots of those favorite books, but I think the overall book that I would say is my favorite book is probably a book I read in my 20s when I was going through a lot of transition, a lot of trying to decide what I was going to do with my life, what was my purpose here in the world, what was I doing? And, so the one that's I stood out the most, I read a lot of autobiographies. The one that stood out the most to me is Gandhi, the autobiography of Gandhi. So Mahatma Gandhi, he had led the Indian people, in their struggles for independence using nonviolent techniques, and just the details of so many things and so many things throughout his life where he really was very selfless and very giving of the people he didn't even know. And I feel like just being truly loving from the heart and giving of his human self to help the world, and he did it over and over and many times, and was punished and all these terrible things. And not that I ever wanted to do any of those things, but reading that really just helped me to understand that the life that we have today is a truly valuable one, but that we can continue to give to the world and help each other, and that we're really one world, and that we really need to love and help each other. And I think that that's why being a doula and a childbirth educator and helping people has really just become my passion, and that this book just emphasizes that 10 times over and over and over, because it just really helped me to realize that it wasn't just about markets and money and all this stuff, the stuff that we're definitely so consumed with here in the United States, especially, and classism and color and all these different things. And, you know, I think for me personally, I felt that it was a way for me to really see myself in another human being and in humans overall, where I see us all as brothers and sisters of the world, and that we are here together, regardless of your religion, regardless of your race, regardless of whatever it is, how much money you have, how much money you don't have, and that we have limited time on this earth, and that we, whatever it is that your job is, that it's important, and that we help each other. And I feel like that alone has given me a big thought about what it is that I'm doing in the world. And it makes me feel happy, to be honest with you. And I'm just happy that I got to read the book. I'm glad that I didn't live back then. I'm certainly not doing nonviolent things, but in protest, but I am, as a doula, I do advocate for my families, and I help them in many ways where I feel like I'm making a difference, and just my presence is the difference as well. So, um, I know all of the doulas who are helping families around the world are making a difference in changing birth and making it better. And even if the hospitals or practitioners or whoever is listening, always, the more they hear it, the more they question, because if it happens over and over and people keep saying it over and over, things eventually change. So I'm excited that doulas exist. I'm excited that I'm a doula. I'm excited for a future, because I feel like more and more people care about each other, and we all love each other. And I think that's what's most important, is that we're loving each other and helping each other around the world as humans, because we really are all we have. So that's why I chose that book.
That is so true. I love that. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, tell us where we can connect with you. I know people right in your area, definitely want to get in touch with you with your services, but I know you do a lot of stuff online too, right?
Yeah, so I offer my classes online, and I do hypnosis online as well. What else? And I do in-person classes and in-person hypnosis as well. So if you're in California and you want to do hypnosis with me, you're welcome to do that.
Awesome.
So my website is birth first, BIRTH, the number one ST.com. You could also send me an email at info@birthfirst.com as well. My phone number is there also.
I'm definitely going to link all of your info in the show notes so that they can just easily click and they can connect with you on socials. I highly recommend Elizabeth and her work to anyone because, as you said, even though we talked a lot about birth today, and because I feel birth is just so symbolic of so many things, you work with people doing hypnosis about all kinds of things. So anything that they might want to explore with hypnosis, I highly recommend that you reach out to Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you. And Yeah, like, and again, anything, like if you are having confidence issues, if you're having procrastination issues, any
Mhm.
of those things, anything that you can think of, you could probably get fixed by hypnosis.
Oh, I love that. Yes. And the mind is so powerful that we either let it be in charge or we can kind of program it ourselves, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for your generous gift of time today and your stories. And it's just such a delight to talk with you. And I'm so glad that our paths brought us together and you've left such an impact on my life. And I know that you have for so many others as well.
Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate you having me on, and I thank you so much for everything. Like, this has been such a fun time talking to you, and I thank you for asking me to help you with your two children. It was such an honor, and I'm glad that it made such an impact in your life and your husband's life.
Yes.
So I know, I actually remember him asking me about that this could work for sports, and I'm like, absolutely.
Oh,
So I'm so happy that, please let him know that I'm so happy for him, and thank you both for really being part of my life. I appreciate it.
oh, it's our honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, that was so good getting to reconnect with Elizabeth almost 7 years after the birth of our daughter and just kind of getting to go back and revisit what that time was like and how we've implemented some of those lessons into our lives since that time. So let's talk about some of the key takeaways from today's conversation. We develop our mantras, affirmations, meditations, reading books, hypnosis, and other practices regularly so that we are prepared to go with the flow of life when the unexpected comes along. And everything that I'm going to sum up for you here can be applied to giving birth, of course, but it's really about the larger picture of going through our life in general. Support your partner with your love, even by just being there for them, no matter what they are going through personally. This is definitely something that we have applied in our marriage. It's something we haven't always been great at. We had to practice. And Branislav and I will talk about that in future episodes, how sometimes we used to not really know how to be there for each other when we were going through a hard time. And that's something you can definitely take away from this for your relationships is if you're not sure what else to do, just be there for your partner. Your love and your presence is a lot. When we do these practices as part of our daily life, we can feel empowered and calm. We also talked about how our mind focuses on the subject we're thinking about, whether or not it's positive or negative. So focus intentionally on the thing you desire, not on the lack of it or the not wanting of something. To not be in resistance, we must be in acceptance of what is. Really think about that one. In birth and beyond, exhaustion and dehydration are always going to keep you in survival mode. And sometimes you just have to recognize that it's time to slow down, take a rest, and recover. Your body listens to you, and you also want to listen to and trust your body. So to let go of resistance, release tension everywhere. Check in with your jaw, your shoulders, your hands, etc. Check into where you might be holding resistance in the body, and that gives you clues as to where you might be holding resistance in something else. Your power that you have to help yourself is such a gift. Meditate, try hypnosis. You really do hold the power to change your own life. You have the ability to change your body's chemistry. Your mind is so powerful. And don't forget, when in doubt, come back to the power of your breath. Just breathe. When in doubt, pause and breathe. And come into the happy healing room. I swear we're going to get t-shirts made, so stick around for that. And thanks so much for being here for this episode of Star Potential. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Star Potential with Julie Jo Hughes. If this episode resonates with you, please share it with a friend or shout us out on Instagram with the tag @TheJulieJo. That's TheJuliejo. I made you a gift. Please visit us on Instagram to receive my Grounded in Gratitude singing meditation. Want a shot at our monthly giveaway? Please leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts with your email or Instagram handle so we can give you credit. Thank you for your love and support. Until next time, keep shining your light. And that's a wrap.